All right, welcome back to the SilmFilm Script Discussion, Season 3, Episode 7, Part 7. Aha! Is it 7? Is that 7? Did you just make it 7? Okay, that was the 7. All right, cool. So, and coincidentally, we are in the 7th scene of our main story in Act 2. Well, it's not the 7th scene of Act 2, obviously. It's the 3rd scene of Act 2. But it's the 7th scene of the main storyline. Anyway, and words. So, yeah, all right. We need to get back to the Nolor for a bit. And I think the easiest thing for us to do, by the way, the thing that we were talking about Curufin and Feanor, I think we hold that for Act 3.
Right, we're still in Act 2 now?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
That feels like an Act 3 thing to me. We were talking about having Feanor have a conversation, like giving orders to set up for what he thinks is the potential. I don't think he's decided on it fully yet, but the potential need to get on the ships and leave Fingolfin behind.
Yeah. And he's at least established an opportunity for him to give orders to all the different captains of the ship for a coordinated movement, should that ever need to happen.
Right. Yeah. Right. And Curufin, being kind of in tune with dear old dad, figures out what's going on, and they have a conversation
what that means.
about it. Right. Right.
So we'll do that in Act 3.
Right.
Before the doom. The whole point is that Feanor gives those orders before Mandos shows up.
Now, like he has the ability to signal orders to the fleet before Mandos shows up, so we don't have to go through all that logistical stuff afterwards.
Now, is this conversation going to be unclear to the audience? Like he and Curufin are so simpatico that he can hint at what he needs and Curufin figures it out, or is he going to be explicit enough that the audience knows that he's thinking about picking up and leaving them behind?
I think the audience I think it's unavoidable for the audience to realize it. I also don't want it coming out of nowhere when he does it. Like I want to kind of set that up as a thing.
Okay. At the very least, when he gives the orders to the ship captains, it's not clear to them or the audience that this is a betrayal type move. However, his conversation with Curufin should be a little bit more giveaway, I think.
Right.
We
could not do that and just have Curufin and Feanor exchange, like Curufin look
eye contact,
look kind of like suspiciously at him, and Feanor doesn't say anything, but he just nods.
Yeah,
which makes it less explicit.
You're gonna. I mean, when Fingolfin and their people see that the ships are gone, they know that they've been betrayed, but they don't know. I mean, you don't want it to be a little shock to the audience, is what you're saying?
Right. Yes. Also, we can't have the entirety of the fleet know that they're leaving Fingolfin behind in secret, because
some of them won't agree.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Like, as far as Maedhros knows, they're coming back for them. So in his mind, so what we do need to establish is that the Feanorians are going to go first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because
that's the conversation that we're going to show. I mean, we don't. The conversation, it's going to be shown next episode where Feanor does not make it explicit to his sons that we're leaving everyone behind, and some of them get it and some of them don't.
Right. Basically, what this conversation needs to look like is we've gone far enough north.
Mm-hmm.
We need to think about crossing the sea soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to get prepared for an ocean crossing, not necessarily and leave the host of Fingolfin behind and never come back. It's just we need to get prepared for ocean maneuvers now instead of coast maneuvers. And to stay together as a fleet at sea, you need to coordinate that better than up the coast. So Feanor is just doing the how to stay in touch with other ships at sea conversation.
Also, it would be interesting if Fingolfin is here for this, and Feanor makes a point of pointing out to Fingolfin that he doesn't want to make any decisions without him.
So he's just lying?
Well, he's basically throwing it in Fingolfin's face at this point. So what he's doing is the Feanorians have control of the ships. Everybody knows this. Fingolfin's not getting his troops on the ships except by force. Everybody knows this, but nobody's like just going to come out and say that. So what Feanor is doing is he's saying, we'll bring our guys over first, and we're going to come back and get you. He's setting that up.
Oh, I don't think Feanor should even, because remember when after the Doom of the Valar, after they've decided they're going to go forward, then dissension arises where they're talking about there's not enough people to go all on the ship at once, but then we're already afraid of betrayal, but that comes.
But there's not going to be enough time to establish that.
I think now is the time when the Noldor should have the Doom, and then they can have all those conversations after the Doom.
But don't
want even Feanor to be outright lying. I think to outright
he's not. That. Okay, well, he's not going to actually say we're going to take my group first. What he's saying is something along the lines of, we can't travel north along this coast forever. We need to get prepared for, travel at sea. Here, I'm doing everything very openly, right in front of you, Fingolfin, just like I said I would. See, running it by you. Nothing to see here. No hidden secrets. And yet, what he's doing is preparing a betrayal. So to him, he thinks it's very funny that he's openly doing this in Fingolfin's face without actually.
Also,
why would he even bother to pose as doing it with Fingolfin's permission, since he despises him? So you think because he's funny and ironic?
It's not just that he's like, Fingolfin knows that he's not being. Fingolfin knows that he's just doing it out of spite. Like, he's not actually, like, he doesn't care what Fingolfin has to say.
So he's doing it in mockery. He's like,
right.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. This is a mockery.
Fingolfin can clearly see that.
Yeah.
Right. But and the reason, to address your earlier point, the reason why we would have this discussion now instead of after the Doom is delivered is because there's so much tension involved in the Doom that basically everything that happens after the Doom is fallout. Everything that happens after the Doom is the results of the Doom being delivered, not the results of the Doom itself being delivered, but like is the results of that moment.
But remember, Hakan said it makes a big difference. I think he said it in the thread for episode 8. Actually, it makes a big difference if Feanor makes a decision to leave.
Fingolfin may not have ultimately decided that he's leaving Fingolfin behind at this point.
What I was trying to say is, if it makes a difference in the characterization of Feanor and his sons when they make their decision to leave Fingolfin behind. On the one hand, after a bunch of people have been cursing Feanor's name and there's been dissension arising about the ships, versus on the other hand, cutting all that out and not having any of those conversations occur, and Feanor just decides to do it like 2 seconds, 2 minutes after the Doom is spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And Hakan was saying we have those conversations and those arguments happen after the Doom.
No, those conversations will happen after the Doom, but it's going to be like as soon as the Doom has ended, right? Soon as go on.
Also remember that we're going to take a small step back in time next episode, because we are beginning the next episode with Fingon visiting the ships,
right,
and then coming back to his father. So it's before the ships leave.
Right.
So we get to rehash some of the grumbling stuff in the beginning of the next episode. Right.
I thought it was,
which leads into the Helcaraxi decision.
Okay, because I thought that episode 8 was going to start entirely from the Feanorian point of view. Okay.
No, they really wanted to start with the Helcaraxi stuff on the Fingolfin side. So they wanted to have a scene of Fingon boarding the ships, seeing the situation of how things were, and coming back to his father and being like, Feanor is crazy. Feanor is not to be trusted.
Right.
Like Fingolfin and Turgon is pretty much with him on that. So
he knows this though.
He does, but it was a decision to begin the episode with that dynamic of view of the Feanorians. Right. And have that start, because Fingolfin ultimately has to be the one to decide, do we continue or not after they learn they're betrayed?
Right.
So Fingolfin and Turgon have to be voicing ideas, but Fingolfin has to be the decision maker.
Yes.
So we didn't want to start with Fingolfin's point of view at the beginning of the episode. We wanted to start with Fingolfin's.
What's interesting is at the end of this episode, Fingolfin is abandoned by both of his brothers.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah. At least from his point, like Finarfin, I don't think Finarfin necessarily, if Finarfin knew that Feanor was going to leave Fingolfin high and dry like this, he would have stayed longer.
Yeah.
To try to get the host to come in.
Right.
From Finarfin's point of view, both of his brothers have abandoned him.
Yes.
And Feanor's like, I'm abandoning both of my brothers.
So all three of them at the end of this episode feel completely estranged from their two brothers.
Which is why it was important to start the episode with all three of them in a meeting.
Yep. Yeah. Look at that. That is fridge logic right there. Awesome.
Fridge logic.
So, okay. So in this scene then, if we get this kind of like it's like a war room scene essentially. So they're discussing the situation where they can't all get on the ships. There's they're running out of land essentially. They're running out of non-Helcaraxa land to walk on, right? Habitable land to walk on.
Right. They're in Ahriman. They're not inside of the Helcaraxa yet, but they are in a desolate land.
It's getting colder.
It is. It's cold and desolate.
They're further north than we put Formanos.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
No, they're also, there's no plant life. We're fishing if we want food.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, fishing and whatever supplies you brought with you at this point.
And seal clubbing, no.
I think
seal hunting.
Finarfin.
We will likely have some off-screen seal clubbing that will result in seal furs without actually dead seal pups.
Yes. Well, they don't
because
the adult seal.
TV audience. That's what's squeamish.
So, and also Finarfin should be at this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he can be looking, like, making pointed looks at Fingolfin, like,
yeah.
Like,
you're gonna
dude,
speak up.
This guy is not like.
Okay, I didn't see your face.
I know. I like he's giving him pointed looks like this guy is not like we're not gonna follow this guy, right? Like let's not. This is stupid.
Well, it's obvious to both of them that Feanor's just making fun of them.
Right.
So Finarfin's point of view at this point is closer to you're gonna keep putting up with this, really? Rather than making any kind of cogent argument as to why Fingolfin should break. Because Finarfin and Fingolfin have discussed this a zillion times. It's not like they have anything new to say to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to write out the bit of notes here. Okay, who else? I feel like at least like Maedhros and Curufin obviously are there. Who else is at this meeting? Do we think?
Do we want Fingolfin there? Because that could be the scene that Fingolfin is leaving in the beginning of the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
If we wanted to establish the overlap in time, except it should probably be an after the Doom.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, so that needs to be
we can have a scene between Maedhros and Fingolfin after the Doom, and that's the scene that Fingolfin is leaving.
Okay, that's fine.
But to what extent are they still on speaking terms at this point because of the whole feud thing?
Well,
I think it's one of those things where it's like they're barely on speaking terms, but they both want to be on speaking terms because they're both concerned about what's going on. Like Maedhros is clearly starting to have some concerns that Feanor is not, like, after the kinslaying, he's got to have some niggling doubts.
Yeah, but he doesn't really feel bad about that yet.
He does not. We showed Maedhros to be a full participant of the kinslaying and not guilty at the end and quite blood covered. But the because he's the foil for, well, okay, it's not, well, okay, there's a going on in the kinslaying. There's also a Fingolfin Maedhros thing going on because they meet at the top of the arch. So they're standing there, they're standing next to each other, looking at each other. And
this is an exciting adventure versus this was an atrocity, what have I done?
Right. So Maedhros has not reached the atrocity stage of his thinking. He's like, we won! We did what we set out to do. So he's very goal-oriented.
So fun!
Well, and he kind of looks to his uncle expecting to be to like embrace over their victory, and it doesn't happen at all.
I don't think he's in the it was so fun point of view, but definitely in the we accomplished our goal. He's just focused on getting done what he was supposed to get done, and he did it. So he's like, yay, victory.
Yeah, it's almost like Maedhros is a pragmatic character.
Yeah. He is a bit.
See, I think he wants to go on fun, happy adventures and thinks this is all just so exciting and adventurous.
To a point, yes.
And then his brother gets burned alive, and he's starting to be like,
But the thing is, he's starting to before his brother gets burned alive. He has issues at this point with Feanor's leadership because
I think he's still pretty excited about this whole thing until Amuro dies.
He might be excited, but he's concerned about his father's leadership because when Feanor starts making non-logical decisions, Maedhros has a problem with that. Maedhros is okay with his dad's vendettas and all that stuff, but he's not okay with, say, abandoning half your force because that's a strategically terrible idea. Like,
but
so
he's not opposed to that just for strategic reasons, because he actually wants the other people there. Just
he does, but
he doesn't abandon them because that's not.
But if you look at Maedhros's decisions throughout the story, he consistently makes choices that may not be like, he makes them from a point of view that's not always the emotional point of view. Like when he makes the decision to give the kingship to Fingolfin, I don't think he makes it necessarily because he feels bad or anything like that. He knows that Fingolfin could clearly take the kingship if he wanted to.
Well, then it would be very contested, and he wouldn't have a lot of supporters.
Fingolfin would have all the supporters.
Fingolfin would have plenty. Fingolfin
that would not have many supporters. But it's also like, you know, at that point, it's like the Feanorians are the ones who are at fault in the feud, and they've done absolutely nothing on their end to aid reconciliation.
Right, and so
and they have to actually offer something.
Right, so he's submitting to Fingolfin out of a pragmatic. He's doing it pragmatically. He's thinking about how do I make all these things work together in order to accomplish my goal.
That leads to the reasonable goal and result that I want. Therefore, I will take that course of action. Yeah, so he's pragmatic. The thing with Fingon and Maedhros is that we showed them as best buds early on in Valinor, of course. So they were very commonly seen together, talking to each other, very open with each other, until the feud with their fathers happened. And they were still trying to resolve the feud because the two of them are friends. So they want everybody to be friends. We do have Fingon come out to Formenos to secretly visit Maedhros during the banishment. And that's like their last meeting as just friends. And during that meeting, it's obvious that Maedhros is keeping a lot of things very close to him and not being open. It's not that he doesn't trust him, it's just he knows he's not supposed to talk about all the stuff that's going on back in Formenos. It's not something you tell Fingolfin's son. So
it's like if your family suddenly joined a cult. And you go and you meet with your friend who's not in the cult. You don't tell your friend about all the weird things that are happening, right?
But I mean, my take is that when, you know, the lies that, you know, the way that Melkor was setting up the feud was like convincing both sides that the other side was going to steal what was rightfully theirs, and so like these two don't really entirely trust each other for a while.
Well,
but it's not that. Fingolfin and Feanor don't trust each other.
right.
Fingon and Maedhros
Well,
do. Maedhros has family loyalty, and his family loyalty says you have to keep certain secrets because that's not something you talk about with Fingon. So that's where we see the distance, is that there's a distance growing between them. There's not a lack of trust, and there's not a lack of friendship. The two of them don't distrust each other or dislike each other or anything, but they're not allowed to talk to each other anymore. They're not allowed to interact as much anymore.
Okay.
So we see a lot of them now standing around near each other without actually interacting. And Maedhros is kind of not even looking at Fingon a lot of the time because he knows he can't because of his family situation. So they've been somewhat estranged, but not through any falling out between the two of them. It's circumstances only. So at this point, for their final meeting in this episode, what do we want to have them say and do? I'm not sure. If they do have an opportunity, though, to just quick catch each other in a private moment where not everyone else is standing around, then they would talk. Because the reason Maedhros has been silent, and I'm just going to pretend I can't see you, is because his whole family's there. All his brothers are around. He can't be seen talking to Fingolfin's son that freely.
Right. I do. The most important line to me to come out of that conversation is Fingon saying to Maedhros that he is going to kill you all one by one.
Yes.
Well, hold on. Well, I think there is the part where Fingon sets out to rescue him. He does not know that Maedhros did not take part in the burning of the ship. So there has to be established that they're not as he doesn't fully know that he hasn't been betrayed.
Because they're going to come out of that conversation where Maedhros portrays this image of unquestioning loyalty to his father.
Right.
Because he is unquestioningly loyal.
Right. But I feel like he's starting to have some niggling doubts because Feanor is acting more and more manic. It's not the choices so far that bother Maedhros, it's the way that he's acting, because he's the way he talks and his affect is just totally weird.
Right. It's irrational and therefore unreliable and therefore not trustworthy leadership.
Right. And so it's making him nervous.
Right. And Maedhros could say something like that to, say, MacLeod very privately, of we should keep an eye on Dad, because it's a private family thing that he handles that way.
Keep an eye on versus so much as I'm nervous about he's talking and acting weird, I'm nervous. Not keep an eye on, because of course that would be an indication of disloyalty.
Right. That's it. Right.
Agree with what he's doing.
Well, but Maedhros and MacLeod have talked about their parents for ages, because the whole fallout between Feanor and Nerdanel happened while they were watching. So MacLeod has seen Feanor get angry before. He's seen Feanor be in arguments before. Same, MacLeod and Maedhros both, as the older kids, have been not only witnesses to, but involved in, like, well, what do we do in this situation? And they've talked about it on screen.
Because when they were, I mean, all of the sons were born at a time when the parents were still willing to have kids together, but like their relationship changed over time as Feanor became more and more focused on feuds and Silmarils and less of a family man.
Right. And so
the older sons watched this transformation over time, whereas the younger sons
have lived with it.
Father when he was
the younger sons have always been members of the cult.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's why most of them end up so crazy.
Yeah. So in Formenos, we do have Maedhros and MacLeod talk about the situation with their family and their parents. And there's
at the same time the twins do exhibit some like being reasonable. So I mean, like, are they like mama's boys? Like,
yep,
that's yes.
Their mother and their father.
Yes, they're the twins. I believe are more like Nerdanel in a lot of ways. Maybe not the wisdom thing, right? But they're more morally centered, or maybe they spent more time with her.
Yeah, I think it's a stronger influence on them than their father, or not a stronger influence, but a stronger influence on them than on like Caranthir and Curufin.
Well, I think that
Look
by
at it
the
this
time
way.
the twins started becoming adults, that Nerdanel was starting to see how bad things were getting, and she started to like pull the twins towards her.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you look at it another way, Feanor's obsession with his work took place right about when the Silmarils were made, which is after the birth of the twins.
There you go.
In our storytelling. So he has all his kids with Nerdanel. They're kind of a sort of happy couple. I mean, they're
a tumultuous couple.
I would say they're always tumultuous, but they are at least getting along.
They're a passionate couple in many ways.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
I feel like at some point after giving birth 7 times, she said, "I have had enough kids. I don't want any more kids."
I'm not sure she did though. I'm not sure because
we have already broken the world record for elf children. Let's stop now.
But I never hear anything from her that sounds like, but that was enough and I'm done now. What I see is that Feanor decides to pour his energy into making Silmarils, which means he's probably not spending as much time with his family or his wife. So he moves on from having children to making Silmarils.
Yes.
And so he's moved out of that phase of his life. So whether or not she
the twins essentially grow up with a brilliant absentee father.
Yes, and that's where I was going with this, is that Feanor's not there, whereas the other sons, Feanor was just as active in their childhood as the mother, and therefore he was very influential.
Yes. Yeah. But not that he
for the twins, less so.
We see them going along with some of his decisions and ultimately, you know,
he's Feanor. He's
but like he was less on them than he was on like Curufin, who is just, you know, mini me.
Yeah.
Feanor's charisma is like plus 100 or whatever, so he can convince anybody of anything.
Yes.
Usually, the exceptions to that are when he's blinded by his mania stuff that gets in the way.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's really good at it. So of course, his sons.
To somebody who I know plays GURPS, his charisma would be rolled under an 18.
There you go.
Charisma is not a stat.
I know it's not a stat. It's an advantage, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I know my
RPG
RPG systems. Haha.
I don't. I know what charisma is. I don't know how the points work. I know there's dice involved. Anyway, so
in GURPS, you try to roll under your skill with 3 dice. So, and if you have an 18,
whatever skill he's using under, he's probably rolling. He's probably rolling. I mean, his effective skill is probably around like 24 or something.
Yes. Yes. Unless it's talk to Valar. Unless it's the skill talk to Valar. Apparently.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Respect for others is everything else is good. Yeah. Well, humility is not Feanor's strong suit. Yeah. But regardless of all of that, the twins obviously have some tie to Nerdanel, and we're going to have to show that. Fingolfin and Maedhros are distant, but not really estranged, and don't really know what the other person's thinking ananymore because they're not as close as they used to be.
And so each of them would rather be friends and isn't sure that the other guy would still rather be friends.
Yes. There's that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to take a break because I think we're at least 5 to 7 minutes overdue. So if you're watching us live, we'll be back in literally like 5 seconds. If you're watching us on YouTube in the futures, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. Check out the links below so you can check out stuff on the SilmFilm Project, Signum University, Mythgard Academy /Institute, and Mythmoot 5 coming up June 21st to the 24th at the National Convention Center. That's where it is in Leesburg, Virginia. We'll be back in a second.